Ever find yourself talking to someone, and you suddenly realize you both speak English, but it's like you're speaking different dialects or something.
It's like you're both speaking the same language, but from different planets.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're diving into today, the wild world of regional American English. We're talking those words and phrases that are like a dead giveaway, instantly telling you where someone's from, like soda versus pop.
Classic.
Right. But it goes way beyond that. We're going to dig into a whole lexical study, basically a roadmap of regional vocabulary, and see just how diverse American English really is.
And it's not just random. These regional variations, they tell a story about history, culture, the people of a place. It's all woven into the language.
Okay, so think of it like this. We've got the North, Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, Midland, South, West, Pacific Northwest, all these different regions, each with their own linguistic quirks.
Researchers have actually mapped this stuff out, and what they found is that even within a single language, there are countless ways to say the same thing, and those differences often reflect the unique character of a region.
It's like you cross a state line, and suddenly the words for everyday things change. Kind of makes you appreciate the complexity of language, right?
Absolutely. It shows how dynamic and adaptable language is.
So let's kick things off in the North, shall we? The land of, you guessed it, pop.
Ah, yes, the great pop debate. Though they've got a few more linguistic tricks up their sleeve than just that. Take brat, for instance. Down south, you say brat, and everyone pictures a mischievous kid. But up north, brat means one thing and one thing only: bratwurst.
Makes sense, Wisconsin, with its strong German heritage. Gotta rep those delicious sausages. But the North is a big region, right? What about those hyper-specific terms?
Oh, absolutely. Head up to Michigan's Upper Peninsula and you'll run into the term Yooper. And this isn't just a funny word, it speaks to a distinct cultural identity.
So like a badge of honor, you're saying?
Exactly. Being a Yooper means you're shaped by that rugged landscape, that sense of independence, of being a little bit removed from the rest of the state.
And speaking of unique terms, we got to give a shout out to oop, that little Midwestern gem. It's like the verbal equivalent of gently bumping into someone.
Okay.
Oh, just going to squeeze past you there.
It's become this endearing little quirk that unites a whole region, hasn't it?
Right. It's like a linguistic handshake.
Yeah. The Northeast is a tricky one. You got your widespread terms, sure, but then they hit you with these hyper-local phrases that make even a seasoned linguist scratch their head.
It's like walking into a Boston pub and asking for a soda. They look at you like you just ordered a plate of fried clams in Kansas.
You're not wrong. But before we get into the real nitty-gritty, even something as simple as saying brook over creek, that'll often tell you you're in the Northeast. Even the words for nature get twisted up.
So what you're saying is even the landscape can kind of shape how people talk. That's pretty wild when you think about it.
Absolutely. And don't even get me started on bubbler versus drinking fountain. Talk about a linguistic showdown for the ages. Cross a couple state lines and boom. The thing you use to quench your thirsts got a whole new name.
It really makes you wonder what other everyday things have these secret regional nicknames, right?
But we got to talk about New England. I've heard they've got some real doozies up there.
Oh, New England, especially over in the East, it's like a time capsule of language. Absolutely fascinating.
Don't leave me hanging. Give me the good stuff. What kind of words are we talking here?
Well, take leaf peeper, for instance. It perfectly describes that whole autumn thing they got going on up there, driving around just to see the leaves change colors.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that. We're going leaf peeping this weekend. I always thought it was kind of funny, but it makes sense now that you mention it. It's all about the region and what they do.
Exactly. Shows how language reflects those shared experiences,
All right, what else you got?
How about hosey? That's a fun one. Basically means calling dibs on something, claiming it as your own. So let me get this straight. I'm in Boston. See the last cannoli at the bakery. I just yell, hosey, and it's mine.
You got it. It's a quirky little piece of their linguistic heritage. Kind of charming, if you ask me.
I'm kind of digging it. This is making me want to hit the road and just collect regional sayings. But before we leave the East Coast in the dust, gotta at least mention the hoagie.
Ah, yes, the hoagie. Proof that a word can become so popular it breaks free from its regional roots and takes over.
For real, though, who doesn't love a good hoagie?
Yeah.
But I had no clue it came from the Mid-Atlantic.
It did. Born and raised in Philly, actually. And now you can find hoagies or some version of them from sea to shining sea.
Really makes you think about the journey a word takes,
Yeah.
Starts in one spot, tied to a specific group or culture, and then it travels, changes, and becomes part of something much bigger.
Like a family tree for words. tracing their roots and branches as they spread and change over time. And speaking of spreading and changing, we gotta address the elephant in the room, the never-ending saga of pop versus soda.
Here we go. The battle for fizzy drink supremacy. Hit me with it. Who says what and where?
Okay, so picture this. The North, especially those Midlanders, they're all about that pop life.
Yeah.
But cross that Mason-Dixon line and you've entered Coke country, friend, even if you're talking Sprite or Dr. Pepper.
Wait, seriously? Everything's Coke.
Pretty much. Kind of wild, right? It's like Coke became the catch-all term for anything bubbly down there.
No way.
Yeah.
You know, now that you mention it, it happened to me once. Visiting family down in Alabama, I asked for a soda, and my cousin looked at me like I was speaking gibberish. You mean a Coke? It's amazing how these little things can really throw you off.
For sure. And here's the kicker. Even within these regions, you got these pockets of, well, linguistic rebellion, I guess you could say. Like St. Louis, right in the heart of pop territory, they prefer soda. And central Indiana, smack dab in Coke country, they lean towards pop. Really goes to show you those lines on the map ain't as clear-cut as you might think.
So it ain't as easy as saying this side says this, that side says that. There's more to it.
Exactly. It's a whole mix of things. History, culture, maybe even ad campaigns from the big soda companies themselves.
True. Like maybe some massive marketing blitz back in the day that just stuck around and influenced how folks talk today.
Definitely possible. Speaks to the power of language, you know. Always changing, always shaped by the world around us. But hey, let's not get too caught up in the Coke versus pop showdown. The South's got a whole treasure chest of linguistic goodies just waiting to be discovered.
Oh, I bet. Southern dialects are so full of charm, it's like each sentence is a little story in itself. What else you got for us? All right, lay it on me. What's the deal with fixin' to? Heard it a million times, but never really thought about it.
See, that's the beauty of language, right? Fixin' to, it ain't just about to or gonna. It's got that extra layer, that Southern charm. It's like saying, I'm getting ready to do this, and I mean it.
Like they're taking their time, savoring the anticipation.
Exactly. Slowing things down, appreciating the process. That's Southern living for you.
Love it. Okay, what else you got? What other linguistic treasures are hiding down south?
Well, we can't forget about house shoes. You know those comfy slippers you wear around the house? Down south, they keep it simple. House shoes. No need to complicate things, right?
Practical and to the point. But I've heard it gets even better. What about those, shall we say, unique ways Southerners talk about everyday stuff?
Oh, you better believe it. Like birthdays, for instance. Instead of turning a year older, they're making that age. You making 30 this year. Bless your heart.
That's adorable. Kind of like they're actively creating their age, celebrating each year as it comes.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Speaks to that Southern hospitality, that warmth and generosity.
Speaking of generosity, you mentioned a word earlier, lagniappe. What's that all about?
Ah, lagniappe. Now that one's a real treat, straight from the heart of New Orleans. It's that little something extra, a bonus, a token of appreciation. Like you go to the store and the cashier throws in a free piece of candy with your purchase. That's lagniappe.
I love that. It's like the cherry on top, that extra touch that makes you smile. Okay, we've wandered through the north, navigated the northeast, and gotten ourselves lost in the south. Where to next on this linguistic road trip of ours?
Well, hold on to your hats because we're heading west. The West Coast, especially California, it's known for its laid-back vibes and, of course, its own brand of slang.
Oh, yeah. California slang, it's practically its own language. What kind of words are we talking about here?
One word that instantly comes to mind, hella. It's a California staple, amplifies everything. Hella cool, hella good, hella tired. You name it, they've got a hella for it.
It's like their go-to hype word. And you know what's funny? Even though it's so California, I've been hearing it everywhere lately.
See? Language is always on the move, always evolving and adapting. But even in the wild west of vocabulary, that pop versus soda debate rages on, doesn't it?
It sure does. Like, no region is safe from the great carbonated beverage showdown. But we got to keep moving. One last stop on our cross-country adventure, the Pacific Northwest.
Ah, yes. The Pacific Northwest, stunning scenery, quirky culture, and yep, you guessed it, some seriously unique ways of speaking.
All right, I'm all ears. What kind of linguistic gems are we talking about here?
Well, one term that really stands out is skid road. Originally, it referred to those paths used to transport logs in logging camps, a nod to the region's history as a major timber hub. But over time, skid road took on a whole new meaning.
How so?
As cities grew, these skid roads often ended up in less desirable areas associated with poverty and homelessness. So the term evolved to mean those rundown parts of town, places where social services are often concentrated.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like the word itself tells a story about the region's past, its present, and even those social and economic divides that exist in so many places.
Exactly. And that's the power of language, right? It's not just about the words themselves, it's about the stories they tell, the history they reveal, the connections they forge.
It's been an amazing journey, wouldn't you say? We've crisscrossed the country, explored all sorts of regional dialects, uncovered hidden histories, even had a few good laughs along the way.
We sure have. Hopefully, this has got you thinking about your own way of speaking, those little quirks that make your language unique.
Because the next time you hear someone say soda instead of pop or hosey instead of dibs, you'll know there's a whole lot more to it than meets the ear. It's like a secret linguistic handshake connecting us to different places and people. So keep those ears open and those minds curious, because you never know what verbal treasures you might stumble upon out there in the wild world of language.